I never expected a chance encounter to change our lives forever. The power of compassion unfolds. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a gray morning, clouds thick like heavy blankets. The air tasted of dampness and despair. I stood outside the coffee shop, heart racing, staring at the cracked pavement. I could feel the weight of my worries crushing me. Bills piled up. Mom's health fading. A lump in my throat dared to choke me. I pushed through the door, the bell jingling like a warning. The warmth inside was welcoming, but it couldn't touch the chill in my bones. I scanned the room. Familiar faces, lost in their own worlds. Then, I saw him. A stranger at the corner table, his eyes like stormy skies, full of secrets. He was hunched over a sketchbook, pencil moving with frantic energy. Each stroke seemed to breathe life into something invisible. Curiosity pulled me closer. I felt that urge, that unknown force, urging me to know more. My fingers trembled as I approached, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. "What are you drawing?" I asked, barely able to hear my voice over the clinking cups and muffled conversations. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face, like a spark in the dark. "Everything," he murmured, a hint of sadness intertwined with wonder. I didn't understand how an answer could carry such weight. His gaze pierced through me. For a heartbeat, the world around us faded into silence, and it was just the two of us, suspended in a moment that felt like fate. I leaned in closer, my heart pounding. It was strange. Tension hummed in the air, raw and electric. I wanted to know his story. The city outside felt miles away, simply a distant echo. Why everything? He blushed, a soft red creeping up his neck. Because everything matters, small things, big things, the ones we often ignore. A tear slipped down my cheek, surprising me with its warmth. Compassion. It wrapped around my heart like a lifeline. I could feel the strangeness of this meeting. It was like he understood my pain without me uttering a single word. Just then, a loud crash shattered our moment. A child knocked over a chair, laughter sprinkling through the tension like a sudden rainstorm. The air buzzed with whispers and gasps. And then, the room fell silent again. Everyone's gaze was drawn to the window. Outside, a woman cried out, her hands pressed to her chest, eyes wide with terror. "They're taking him! Please!" What had happened? My heart raced. My breath came in sharp bursts. I glanced at the stranger. His face mirrored my shock. I could feel the pulse of uncertainty. A wave of fear washed over me. And in that terrifying moment, I realized how fragile our lives were. How quickly everything could change. What if we couldn't just be bystanders? What if this was a call to arms, a chance to act? Was I capable of that? I felt my heart pounding in my ears. My mind spinning with questions. But then the stranger whispered, looking deep into my soul, "Sometimes compassion is all it takes to change a life." I took a shaky breath. The air was thick with unspoken possibilities. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence stretched painfully as we stared at the woman outside, her pleas tearing through the tranquil facade of the coffee shop. I could see her trembling hands, the way her breaths hitched, and I felt something ancient stir within me, a need to act, to not be silent. Beside me, the stranger's eyes were wide, reflecting a whirlwind of emotions I couldn't quite name. Should we help? My voice cracked, uncertainty spilling out like a cautious whisper. He nodded slowly, still absorbing the gravity of the moment. We can't just watch. He stood abruptly, shaking off the haze that had settled over us since our encounter began. There was a fire in his gaze now, a determination that ignited something deep inside me.
Without thinking, I followed him outside, my heart hammering like a war drum.
The chill of the morning air cut through me, but the heat of urgency suffused my veins. The scene outside was chaotic. The woman's cries echoed, drawing attention from passers-by who paused, some staring while others hurried away, unwilling to engage. I have to help him," she cried, her voice raw with desperation.
"He's just a kid, is he in trouble?"
I asked, stepping forward, my mind racing to catch up with my feet. The woman turned to me, her eyes wide and glistening with tears.
"They're taking him away. He didn't do anything wrong." My thoughts scrambled. Who was him?
I scanned the crowd for a glimpse of a child caught in the turmoil, feeling the weight of sadness and injustice pressing down on my heart. The stranger stepped closer to the woman, his voice calm but firm.
"Can you tell us what happened? We need to know how to help."
The woman's breath caught in her throat as she raked a hand through her hair.
"He's my son. They think he stole something. But they're mistaken. He's just a kid.
He was playing in the park." I could see the glint of police badges in the distance, officers moving toward an area near the park, each step heavy and deliberate. The world spiraled around me, and I felt paralyzed, caught in a whirlwind of emotions: fear, anger, hope.
"That's him."
The woman pointed to a boy whose bright red baseball cap seemed almost out of place against the drabness of the world that surrounded us.
He stood there, wide-eyed and alone, inches from two uniformed officers who were stooping to detain him.
"Wait!" I shouted before I could think better of it, as the stranger reached for my arm, his touch grounding yet alarming.
"Please. Let him go. He's just a child."
The officers paused, their attention shifting toward us. The air crackled with tension. All I could feel was the heartbeat of the moment: a child's fears, a mother's desperation, the injustice of the world barreling toward us like an avalanche. I stepped forward, compelled by a force stronger than fear.
"He didn't do anything wrong. You can't just take him. Look at him."
As if on cue, the boy's gaze locked with mine, a flicker of uncertainty transforming into flickering hope before it dimmed.
I felt as though I had entered a surreal dream. Could a simple plea shift the world off its axis?
"Ma'am," one of the officers said, his voice brusque but with a hint of something I couldn't name.
"We're following procedure."
"But he's just a child,"
I pleaded again. "This is injustice. He deserves protection, not punishment."
Hot tears spilled from the woman's eyes, and suddenly the stranger was standing beside me, his own shock now replaced with undeniable resolve. "We're not leaving him like this," he declared firmly, a quiet strength radiating from him that steadied me. I felt our shared compassion coiling around us like a lifeline. In that moment, I realized we were not alone. Other patrons had stepped outside, drawn into the charged atmosphere. Their expressions matched our own concern, empathy, a collective yearning for justice. In that instant, we became a small army, unified by a fragile thread of compassion stretching across the chaos. Voices joined ours, shouting, demanding fairness. The air buzzed with an unexpected sense of unity, a clamor of ordinary people rising up against injustice.
But just as our resolve
swelled like a tide, the officer's walkie-talkie crackled to life, slicing through the rising energy. "We have a situation developing. Backup needed at the corner of Elm and Main. Emergency." As the words echoed off the brick walls, I felt the strangeness of the moment settle into dread.
Who else was in danger? Just like that, the focus shifted.
The solidarity we had sparked teetered on the brink of disruption.
"Stay back!"
one of the officers shouted as he moved toward the boy, and panic washed over everything like a sudden flood.
It hit me then, a horrifying realization: in our desperate attempt to help, we might just ignite something far more dangerous.
The woman swayed, her anguish palpable, and I grasped her arm to steady her. "We will not let them take him," I promised, though doubt clawed at my insides. But trust, however fragile, had already begun to build between us. "Yes," the stranger said, his voice soft but certain, propelling me forward. "We're here for him. Together." And then, right in the heart of our collective courage, something sharp and chilling happened. From the alley behind us emerged a figure cloaked in shadows, watching with an intensity that sent shivers racing along my spine. The world had shifted underfoot, and as I strained to understand the revelation unfurling before me, I felt a spark of hope flicker within, a chance, however slim, for change, but also the gathering storm of something unforeseen. The cliffhanger of our fate dangled precariously before us, trembling like the whispers of an unresolved future. As the figure stepped into the light, a chilling familiarity washed over me, freezing the air in my lungs. It was someone I recognized, Mark, a face I thought I'd left behind. His presence felt like a ghost of my past come to haunt me, dredging up emotions I'd worked to bury beneath layers of guilt and regret. "What are you doing here?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper, as if saying it too loudly would shatter the delicate hope woven around us. He smirked, but it was not one of amusement, it was something darker, laden with mockery. "Just observing, you know? I love a good show." His gaze flicked to the boy, then to the crowd that now buzzed with confusion and apprehension, fueled by empathy but hanging on the brink of chaos. Panic whispered to me, urging retreat, but I stayed rooted, eyes locked on his. Deliberating the risk of angering him while simultaneously feeling the weight of responsibility for the boy sobering my heart. Everyone depended on courage as thin thread, and I couldn't sever it easily. The tension in the air thickened as the officer's eyes moved between us, uncertain whether to address the protests around them or the creature that had emerged from the shadows. My thoughts raced, piecing together the fragile reality. Mark was no ally. He thrived on chaos, drawing strength from disarray, from suffering. "Mama!" the boy called out, his young voice trembling. That heartbreaking plea rang like a bell in the stifling atmosphere, and the woman's pain echoed back at him, drawing us inward like a gravitational pull. "She's right here, baby." The woman cried back, her hands reaching into the space between us, yearning for connection, for safety. "Let him go," I urged, directing my words at both Mark and the officers. "He's innocent. We won't let him be taken, not now, not ever." Mark's expression shifted, curiosity replaced by something akin to fascination. "You think you're powerful enough to stop this?" He stepped closer, and dread spiraled in my stomach. "You think you can play the hero?" Each accusation felt like a barb aimed at my fragile heart, but I stood my ground, fueled by the desperate courage of the woman beside me, the innocent child behind her, and the collective heartbeat of those standing with us. "He doesn't have to be a victim. He doesn't have to play by your game." My voice rang out against the murmurs of the crowd. Each word sparked embers against the dark night of Mark's threatening energy. In that moment, a woman I didn't recognize stepped forward, her face determined and resolute. "We all matter here. Nobody should be taking this child away for a crime he didn't commit. Well, stand together." With her fiery declaration, a ripple of solidarity surged through the crowd. Others began to shout assurances and rally cries, bolstering our resolve. I glanced at the boy, whose innocent eyes shone with a flicker of recognition, knowing that perhaps there was still hope. But Mark's laugh echoed across the space, a sinister sound that cut through the unity we had tried so hard to forge. "Together? You think that will change anything? There are bigger pieces at play here. What do you know?" I challenged, my heart pounding. "You don't get to dictate their fates." The air grew tense as I registered the officers glancing uneasily at one another. The shifting dynamic instilled a spark of hope in me, reaching beyond personal stakes and pulling in those who felt the same desire for justice. "It's not just about him," I yelled, pointing at the boy. "It's about all of us. It's about the time when we allow these broken systems to keep manipulating the narrative. We can change things together, but first, we have to make ourselves heard." Mark's expression darkened, and he stepped back, scanning the faces around the gathering crowd as if searching for a welcomed ally who would aid his recklessness. "You think this will stop? This is how the world works." His words were venomous, and the echo of them sent shockwaves of dread. Just then, a flurry of emotions washed through me, clarity mixed with fear, and I heard the resolve form in my own voice. "If we stay silent, it will never change." A feeling ignited like a flame at the center of my chest, pushing me to take one more step forward despite the fear gnawing at my heart. We could be the tipping point, the spark that paved the way for a new possibility. As I continued, Mark's gaze held me, and I could swear I glimpsed a hint of something torn behind his veneer of bravado. Part of me wanted to reach out and pull him into the light, to unravel the darkness clouding his existence. But even that compassion felt like a poison when faced with the injustice unfolding before us. The crowd roared with determination even as the officers positioned themselves nearer to the boy. "We're not backing down," someone shouted. He's innocent. Then came the unmistakable sound of sirens blaring in the distance, wailing louder and closer, a terrifying reminder that if we didn't act quickly, we might witness the very thing we feared, a child torn away due to a misunderstanding. As the officers began to advance closer to the boy, desperation coursed through me, coiling like a spring waiting to leap. Everything hung in fragile balance, and my heart thundered with the realization that this moment could either lead to terrible consequences or the birth of something astonishing. Yet, as if orchestrating the heartbeat of fate, Mark whispered, "You really think you can win this battle? The real fight is just unfolding." And with those words, the dread settled in deeper than before, sending a tremor through every fiber of my being, leaving me with the daunting question that demanded an answer we may not have. What was the price of this fight, and who would have to pay? The sirens wailed relentlessly, merging with the rising tide of desperation radiating through our makeshift barrier. Faces blurred in and out of focus, each narrative strained beneath the weight of a shared spirit. I felt their eyes on me, and for the first time in years, I didn't want to retreat, I wanted to lead. Then, amidst the chaos, a soft voice pulled my attention away from the crowd. "I'm scared," the boy whispered, his small hands trembling as he clutched the fabric of his mother's shirt. My heart shattered at the sound of his vulnerability. The innocent gaze piercing through the turmoil held an innocence that seemed almost unbearable to protect. I knelt before him, hoping to anchor the fleeting touch with warmth. "You are brave," I promised. "Braver than most grown-ups. We're not going to let anything happen to you. Not today." My words forged a connection, even as my own anxiety swirled within me, threatening to suffocate the resolve I was trying to instill. In the moment of that sacred connection, I noticed a woman nearby who had been nervously wringing her hands, her eyes darting between the would-be captors and the boy. "What if," she began hesitantly, "what if we made a human chain? If we could protect him physically, maybe that could give the officers pause." The idea sparked something, and the crowd murmurs began evolving into a chorus of agreement. Yes, a human chain. Suddenly, it felt as though the embers of hope ignited into fervent flames. "We need every single person," I said, urging those around me. "Anyone who believes this is wrong, we need you now." A middle-aged man stepped forward, his brow set with determination. "Amen," he declared, the courage of his conviction echoing within the depths of our collective uncertainty. "Let's protect this child." The chant spread like wildfire, weaving through individuals who caught my spirit, igniting their own. "We protect the innocent. We protect the innocent." It grew louder, filling the air with a hope that blossomed as fiercely as it was fragile. Mark, who had stood watching with a sly amusement now nailed to his face, shifted uneasily. "Do you think this will end well?" "You're only sharpening the blades," he retorted, eyeing the approaching sirens and the officers braving the storm. In that moment, I hesitated. Something in my gut tugged at the warning, a realization that Mark's motives ran deeper than mere cruelty. What was he fumbling for, lurking just beyond reach? Fear and anger were safe anchors, but there was also a chance that something darker beckoned him forward. As the officers edged closer, I tightened my focus. The tension in the air morphed into something electric, palpable and rich with possibilities that outflanked even our worst fears. "We are not doing this for you," I called, directing my gaze towards Mark, whose smirk faltered for the first time. "We're doing this for him." Suddenly, a flicker of something reminded me of a time when kindness had seeped into my life like a gentle tide. I could still recall the warmth spreading through me as a stranger had reached out to offer support when I needed it most. Compassion had always been a powerful force, but now it loomed larger, urging us to stand together as we braced against the darkness. As our formation began coalescing, the space around us felt charged with adrenaline and hope. Officers inched closer, their gazes lingering audibly on our makeshift barricade. I steeled myself against the weight of their approach. "Get back," one of the officers barked, a mixture of authority and concern shimmering beneath his facade. "No! We won't let you take him." I rallied, the weight of my conviction surging through the ranks of bodies. "This child is innocent." "Step aside," the officer demanded, his voice hardening, but behind the fierceness was a glimmer of uncertainty. I could see that he felt the justice blossoming here, too, standing fragile with possibility. At that precise moment, a sudden commotion broke through the ranks behind me. A figure surged forward, a tall man with a familiar silhouette, greasy brown hair tumbling into his brow. My heart dropped as I recognized him, my estranged brother, Arthur. "Get away from him!" he shouted, his voice traveling across the chaos. The crowd hesitated, confusion washing over their faces at this unexpected champion.
"What are you doing here?"
I stuttered, emotions clawing up my throat. Arthur and I had barely exchanged a word in years, and yet here he was, flinging himself into the fray without a second thought. "This isn't right," he spat, raising his fists.
"You don't have to listen to them.
Arthur! You could get arrested," I called out, shivering at the irony of the words tumbling from my lips with trembling urgency. He shrugged, stepping closer, eyes fierce with new purpose.
"Then let them try,"
he shouted, igniting the crowd's fervor as they shouted his name, accepting him as one of their own despite the past. But just as quickly as that moment blossomed into hope, another figure emerged behind him, stepping from the shadows with a smirk that sent chills up my spine. Mark's eyes twinkled in that unsettling way, and I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. "Family drama," Mark whispered, his voice laced with delight.
"The plot thickens, doesn't it?"
In that split second, the heart of our unity turned to ice, a new fissure threatening to fracture the solidarity we had fought so hard to build. My heart pounded as I understood the weight of what lay ahead. Forces were at work that I couldn't yet comprehend. Tension escalated, our budding hope hanging by a thread. Who will pay the price for standing together, then? Mark's final words lingered in the air, a chilling promise that the real battle was yet to unfold, and shadows danced just beyond the light we clung to.
The tension in the air grew thick with uncertainty, weaving around us like an invisible net.
Even as the crowd chanted with fervor, the rhythm echoing like a heartbeat against the cold, unforgiving pavement, I couldn't shake the looming shadow cast by Mark's taunts. His presence was like a gust of wind, threatening to unravel everything we built in this precarious moment of unity. Arthur stood defiant, yet I could see the glimmers of doubt flickering behind his resolve. I wanted to reach him, to pull him back from the brink of this impending chaos.
"You shouldn't have come here, Arthur. It's too dangerous."
My voice trembled, straining against the collective shouts and sirens that clawed at our resolve. He turned to me, fire blazing in his eyes.
"And let them take another innocent life? Not again. I can't stand by while this happens."
The desperation in his tone mirrored a pain I hadn't acknowledged in years, a shared trauma that linked us, despite the silence that had stretched between us. Suddenly, a woman stepped forward from the line of supporters, an elderly figure whose weathered face bore stories etched deep in her skin.
"Listen to him,"
she called, her voice cracking like the branches of a long-dead tree.
"We've lost too many to silence." It enveloped the crowd in a blanket of shared grief and steely determination.
It awakened something deep within me, a desperate yearning for connection, for healing. Mark's gaze settled on us from the shadows, a predator watching his prey, and I could sense he was only waiting for the moment to strike.
"Oh, how noble! But you really think that passion can outweigh the law?"
His words dripped with condescension, echoing louder than the sirens that surrounded us. I am that heartbeat. I saw the flicker of uncertainty in the officer leading the front line, caught between his duty and the humanity that stood so fervently outside the law. This man, with his chipped badge and deep-set eyes, was not the monster I had conjured in my fears. He raised an eyebrow, as if questioning the very nature of his role. "Step aside, please," he repeated, but this time, the words lacked the conviction they had before. I could sense the change sweeping through our makeshift barricade, the tide of fear wavering against the compelling force of compassion. "What you are about to do is not justice," I shouted, my voice rising above the din like a sacrificial offering.
"It's a betrayal.
We're not just faces in a crowd, we are lives intertwined, reaching out to protect the innocence of this child." A boy, that very innocent child whose cries had stirred us all to action, was gazing around with wide eyes, absorbing the tension, the fear, and courage alike. I knelt again before him, desperate to inspire fortitude.
"You see these people?" I gestured broadly. "They are here for you.
We are here because we believe kids like you should feel safe, a chance to grow, to dream." This plea ricocheted through the hearts around us, igniting voices that once echoed in silence. A woman near me placed her hand on mine, steady and reassuring.
"We stand together,"
she declared, her strength like a spring rain nurturing parched land. But Mark, ever the storm cloud overhead, taunted us.
"Unity? More like a desperate grasp at hopelessness."
"You think you'll change anything?" In the midst of this, Arthur caught my eye.
"Don't you remember, sister? Kindness can shift tides."
His voice was steadying in its remembrance, yet the reality that surrounded us pulled me from the comfort of nostalgia. Kindness is a double-edged sword, Mark interjected, his smirk returning to the fore.
It can build or destroy.
Just as you find hope, it can find you utterly alone. Before I could respond, the air shook as the police moved forward, readying themselves for confrontation. The crowd began to falter as apprehension crept back like a shadow, a palpable fear threading tightly through previously buoyant hearts. And just when it felt we might break, an unexpected sound arose. A gentle melody floated through the chaos. An older gentleman in the back began to strum an acoustic guitar, his voice carrying a warmth that sunk into the hardened edges of despair.
Let love be the anthem.
A wave of surprise sparked through us, and I could feel the grip of anxiety loosening. Gradually, more voices joined in, the song weaving through the tumult like a soft touch. In that strange moment, the power of shared humanity seemed to drown out the sirens, the oppressive weight of Mark's cynicism, and even the hardened declarations of authority. Together, well overcome, I heard Arthur whisper, his hope mingling with the melody as it rose higher, connecting us like a bridge across an uncertain divide. But just as I allowed myself to believe we had created a moment of reprieve, the song faltered, cut abruptly by the sound of a sharp report that thrummed through the crowd like a lethal breath being held. A paintball full of some noxious liquid exploded ominously at our feet, sending surges of panic through the air like wildfire. In those frantic seconds, as chaos erupted and a haze of confusion clouded our vision, I felt the ground shift once more beneath us. Arthur's hand slipped from mine, and the crowd burst into disarray.
Stay together, I croaked, panic mounting as I searched desperately for him amidst the fray.
My heart raced, the depth of my fear eclipsing everything else. And there, in the chaotic aftermath, amidst the shouts and the cries, I saw Mark's unyielding gaze fixed upon me, a harbinger of the horrors yet to come. "This is only the beginning," he whispered, grinning like a wolf among the sheep. In that moment, I understood the battle I feared had begun. And with every second that passed, the realm of hope diminished further, replaced by the piercing need for survival. The world tilted as chaos erupted around me, a cacophony of shouts and thunderous footsteps drowning out the thrum of hope that had only recently enveloped us.
The crowd surged, frantic bodies colliding like waves crashing against a rocky shore.
Panic clotted my throat as I desperately searched for Arthur, my eyes scanning the frantic faces that spun past me like leaves in a storm. "Arthur!" I cried, but my voice was swallowed by the tumult. The bitter taste of fear stung as I fought against the tide, willing my body to move faster, to break free from the chaos that threatened to consume us whole. But then, from within the turmoil, I heard a familiar voice carry through the maelstrom. "I'm here." It was drenched in urgency, a lifeline in the storm. Spinning around, I caught sight of him just meters away, struggling to stay grounded as bodies collided, trying to get closer to me through the flurry of chaos. Relief washed over me, momentarily overshadowing the panic surrounding us. As we locked eyes, I felt a warmth surging between us, some unbreakable tether that seemed to say, "We are in this together." And then, I saw it, a small boy had stumbled, fallen to the ground, fear washing over his face in waves as he curled in on himself. Without hesitation, Arthur dashed toward him, ignoring the chaos swirling around us. "Hey, buddy," he said softly, kneeling down before the boy. "You're okay. We're going to get you back up." That simple act of kindness, amidst the chaos, began to knit a thread of calm into the fraying fabric of the moment. I joined him, reaching out to the child's quivering hand, and felt his small fingers grasp mine with a surprising grip of trust. "You're not alone, sweetheart. We're here," I reassured him, my heart aching for the innocence that had been shattered. "Get him out of here." A voice bellowed, commanding yet tinged with concern. It was the officer from earlier, the one who had wavered in his stance. He stepped forward, moving toward us through the chaotic crowd. "This isn't going to end well if we don't disperse." His brow furrowed, revealing a humanity that belied his badge. Arthur nodded, his own fear simmering beneath his courage. "Well, help him," he assured the officer. "Let us take him." For a moment, it felt like a fragile truce was being forged, trust blossoming amidst the uncertainty. But just then, Mark's voice sliced through the air again. "You think your pity will change anything? You're all just pawns in a game you don't even understand." I turned, locking onto the intensity behind his words. There was something darker brewing beneath his bravado, a desperation that twisted my gut. "You're wrong," I shot back, not backing down.
Compassion is not a game.
It's our greatest power. He scoffed, but behind his derision, I glimpsed something unexpected: uncertainty. Your power will fail, just like all the others, he spat, but even as he spoke, I could see he felt the ground tremble beneath him too. A clash against the unity building around us. The officer, still near us, glanced between Mark and us and took a step closer.
Let them work.
They're trying to save a life. His voice was steady, defying the chaos, grounding us in that moment. We can't let this spiral. But as we worked to lift the boy and usher him towards safety, a raucous noise erupted from the perimeter. Shouting intensified, and I turned just in time to see a group of counter-protesters approaching, emboldened by Mark's derision, their faces like thunderclouds. Instinctively, I pulled the child closer to me, shielding him from the anger that surged towards us.
Arthur!
I called, fear clawing at my insides. We need to get him out of here. The boy was terrified, and I could feel his small frame trembling against my side. We can't just leave everyone, Arthur said, torn between the need to protect the child and the charged atmosphere melting into chaos. They need us. Suddenly, the boy's small voice broke through the noise, soft, but steady. I want to help, he said, surprising us both.
I don't want to be scared anymore. My heart twisted with admiration. The innocence in his plea
surged through me, igniting an ember of hope amidst the shadows. We can be brave together, I urged, glancing at Arthur.
But we need to move now. Mark's laughter echoed ominously, poisonous and lingering.
Look at this: children playing heroes in a world they don't understand.
You'll all be hurt again. Enough!
Arthur shouted, determination and fear mingling at the edges of his voice.
You're the one who doesn't understand. We are more than you think.
Our pain, our fear, it connects us.
It makes us stronger.
And we will protect each other. Through the smoke of dissent, I saw the glint in Arthur's eyes ignite with something beyond anger, something almost luminous. He reached out, grasping the boy's small hand tighter. Together, we would emerge from this chaos not just as individuals, but as a singular force forged in resilience. But just then, the air shifted cold, and I caught a glimpse of Mark's expression shifting into something more sinister, a knowing glint that made my stomach churn. The tension hung like a thick fog just before a storm, and somewhere deep inside, I understood. This was not just a battle for a child's innocence. This was a battle for the very core of who we were becoming. As we began to move forward, weaving through the crowd, my heart raced with the promise of what lay ahead, an inflection point in our lives. Behind us, the dissonance of anger surged forward as if it too could sense the shift and was ready to strike. It was then that Mark's warning hit like a tolling bell, resonating long after the sound faded. You can't protect anyone, there are greater forces at play. I turned to glance back at him, my heart thudding wildly in my chest as a new fear began to crystallize. If Mark was right, what hidden depths of darkness were we truly facing? In that moment, the stark realization hit me like a lit fuse, and dread wrapped around my heart like chains. As we finally broke free from the chaos, the weight of uncertainty loomed ahead of us, a storm brewing on the horizon that threatened to engulf everything we had just started to build. The air outside the clamor was a deceptive tranquility, a brief reprieve before the tempest. My heart still raced, each pulse echoing the previous chaos, as we moved to a quieter corner of the street. Holding the boy's hand, I looked down into his shining eyes, trying to draw strength from his innocent courage. You did great, I whispered, trying to anchor him, but in truth, it was I who needed comforting. Arthur took a deep breath, the lines of tension etched on his face revealing the struggle within him. We need to find shelter for a moment, he suggested, scanning the silent avenues that felt like a foreign landscape now. This isn't over. With the boy nestled between us, we trudged down a side street, disorientated yet oddly exhilarated. I couldn't shake the feeling that we had somehow breached the walls between fear and hope. Wherever they might be, we were no longer merely reacting to the chaos. We were now part of something that felt larger than just ourselves, an inexplicable solidarity that drew us together through shared pain, but the calmness that wrapped around us was fleeting. As we turned a corner, my thoughts racing just as fast as my heart, I stopped in my tracks. Before us stood a dilapidated store, its window shattered, its entrance barred with splintered wood. The grim sight felt like a metaphor laid bare, the world beyond us fractured, an echo of our own inner turmoil. Do you think it's safe? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Safe enough for now, Arthur replied, his brow furrowed. He led us through the debris, his grip on the boy's hand unwavering. We needed more than safety, we needed a moment to breathe, a moment to redirect this strange force brewing inside us. Once inside, we steered clear of the shattered glass. Dim light flickered overhead like a dying star struggling against its own fate. The eeriness settled into a heavy silence that cocooned us, and I glanced around, my senses heightened, attuned to every subtle shift in the atmosphere. Where are we? The boy asked, his voice small, almost lost amidst the debris. We're going to be okay, I promised instinctively, trying to mask my own fear. Just for a little while. Arthur knelt beside the boy, their faces close as he worked to comfort him. You showed amazing bravery out there. Most adults wouldn't have dared. You're stronger than you think. Hope sparkled in the boy's eyes as he answered softly, can we help everyone outside? Like you helped me. The words hit me like a slap. The raw honesty, the warm desire to help others despite his age, caught me off guard. Here was a child trying to revive the flame of compassion in a world spinning into darkness. Yes, I whispered, a swell of emotion rising inside me. We will help them. Arthur's gaze met mine, and for a moment, we transcended the heaviness of the moment, drawn together by that unspoken knowledge. No matter how chaotic the storm, we could operate in the eye of it. Suddenly, the door swung open behind us with an ominous creak. My heart seized, and Arthur placed himself protectively in front of the boy. A figure stepped into the threshold, silhouetted against the dim light. The officer from before. Are you two all right? His voice was a mix of authority and concern, and I felt an unexpected wave of relief wash over me. We're fine, Arthur replied carefully. Just getting the boy out of the chaos. The officer nodded, stepping in closer. That chaos is raging harder than you know. You were right about Mark. He's not just a loose cannon. There are forces behind him, and he's been stirring them up. Why? I asked, dread creeping in, knotting my stomach. What is he trying to do? Power, control. People like him thrive on chaos. It's how they make their moves, the officer explained, his voice grave. You stumbled into something much bigger than a protest. You have to be careful, he's dangerous, and he won't stop until he gets what he wants. Just then, the ground trembled, not like a natural event but as if a collective energy from all around was vibrating with tension. My heart sank deeper as realization dawned upon me. Mark's threat was more than just words, it was a siege against the very fabric of our intentions. He was capable of much more than mere intimidation. Stay together, the officer advised, his eyes darting to the door. If you stay in a group, you help protect one another. But you must remain on guard. Knows you're here. As his words settled like an unwelcome chill, I felt the weight of the impending storm more than ever. Outside, the noise of shouting was drawing closer, casualties to the war of ideologies unfolding. It would soon become clear that we were not just fighting for a child's innocence or our place in this world, we were fighting for anyone willing to believe in the power of compassion amidst despair. But just as that thought anchored in my mind, another sound pierced through the cacophony outside. A chilling voice that sliced through me like razor wire, clear and unyielding. Where are they? I know they're here. It's time to face the truth. A shiver ran down my spine. Mark. It was him, an ominous harbinger of chaos drawing closer. The officer's eyes widened, and we all instinctively braced ourselves. The storm was upon us, and I could feel it in my bones. Before I could gather myself, I whispered to Arthur, a plea cloaked in urgency, we can't let him take the boy. We must, but it was too late. Mark's figure darkened the doorway, backlit like an omen. And without a moment's hesitation, he stepped inside, revealing the chaos that had followed him, ready to rip apart our newfound hope. The air inside the store felt stifling, thick with tension as Mark emerged from the darkened threshold. His smirk, twisted with malevolence, stretched wide across his face. Well, what do we have here? He taunted, his eyes scanning us like a predator sizing up its prey. Arthur's instinct kicked in, drawing the boy closer as he moved to block my line of sight. The child pressed against his leg, eyes wide and shimmering, not with fear alone, but with the innocent hope that we could somehow outmaneuver this nightmare. Time to face the consequences of your actions, Mark jeered, stepping fully into the store, brushing past the debris with a self-satisfied air. The store felt like it was receding, the walls closing in on us. You thought you could protect him? He gestured toward the boy, who watched silently, though his small frame quivered. You think compassion wins in a world like this? I felt my chest constrict, the weight of his words wrapping around me like a vice. For a moment, doubt seeped in.
Could our principles hold against his venomous ambition? We aren't afraid of you, I replied, my voice trembling but defiant. Mark raised an eyebrow, amusement dancing in his eyes. How sweet. The naive little hero speaks. But let me ask you, Thisto, you truly believe that a flickering candle can stand against a storm?
His tone dripped with contempt, yet beneath it, there was a hint of something desperate, as if he too feared the very chaos he had created. We're not just a candle weary of fire, Arthur countered, his voice steady despite the turmoil brewing between us.
And we are not alone. He reached behind him, taking my hand, forming a united front before Mark. Unity?
Mark scoffed, taking a step closer.
Look around you.
You have no allies, just this scared boy clinging to you because you offered him a shred of hope.
Hope doesn't protect.
Hope doesn't fight. No, I said, surprised by the firmness that had taken root in my voice.
Hope inspires action. It brings us together. It makes us stronger.
Mark scoffed at that, the harshness of his laughter echoing through the space.
You think you're making a difference?
This boy's innocence is nothing but a flimsy shield in a world of broken glass.
You're fooling yourselves.
The boy, emboldened by our words, peered up at Mark, his small voice cutting through the tension.
You're wrong. My friends and I can help. We can change things. We just need to be brave. Shocked silence fell, and for a moment even Mark faltered, taken aback by the child's fierce resolve.
It was a raw demonstration of courage in its purest form, an unsullied belief in the goodness of people. But I could see in his eyes a flicker of rage ignited by that challenge.
Courage?
He hissed, the venom returning. Let me show you what courage really looks like. With a sudden motion, he lunged toward the boy. I screamed instinctively as Arthur pushed the child behind him, our bodies a line of defense. In that split second, I realized we hadn't just shielded him from Mark's physical grasp but from the looming shadows of despair threatening to engulf us all. There was a ferocity blooming inside me, ignited by the innocence I had committed to protect. And as Mark reeled back, caught off guard by our protective instinct, I seized the moment. Drawing a deep breath, I planted my feet firmly, channeling my fear into resolve.
You'll never get to him because we will always stand together.
Your chaos cannot win against the light we create. Something sparked in Arthur's eyes, a fire igniting alongside me. We weren't just protecting the boy, we were reclaiming our own hope in the face of fear. Mark's laughter turned hollow, and in the next moment, his facade shattered.
You think this is over?
He spat, backing off slowly, but the chaos of the world outside surged like a tide, shaking every fiber of my being. And then, just as I began to feel the weight of temporary victory, the tremors beneath us intensified, shaking loose shards from the shelves overhead.
Look around you!
He shouted above the noise.
This isn't just about you.
It's a war for the very soul of this place, and you're only marking time until the next wave hits. An ominous crack echoed through the store, a prelude to something calamity-fraught. And then came the blast, a resonating explosion rippling from outside, scattering glass and debris everywhere. Run! Arthur yelled, grabbing the boy tightly and pulling me toward the back. The world outside erupted, sounds of chaos swallowing our sanctuary.
We ran through the wreckage, our combined hope buoying us through the storm.
But just as we reached the back exit, a sharp cry sliced through the air. The officer, get back!
It's a trap!
He shouted, rushing towards us just as a massive wave of dust and debris surged into the room, blinding us momentarily. The moment felt suspended in time, chaos closing in, the cries of the innocent battling with the horrors outside, my heart pounding a frantic plea into the air. And through the swirling dust, all I could hear was Mark's laughter echoing, a sinister promise lingering in the air, a reminder that this was just the beginning of something far more terrifying than we had ever anticipated. As we stumbled together through the doorway, the boy squeezed my hand tighter than ever, yet uncertainty seeped into my resolve like ink in water. It was then I remembered the flicker of promise we had made to each other. But as the world united against us, would that flicker be enough when we faced what lurked in the shadows? With every ounce of my being, I hoped we could still stand against the dark. But as we emerged into the chaos, I apprehended a chilling truth. I wasn't ready for the reality that lay beyond the door, a reality that would test our faith, our compassion, and our ability to fight for the soul of humanity itself. The light spilled unevenly through the door, casting distorted shadows on the floor as we burst into the chaos outside. The air was thick with smoke, acrid and suffocating, and the frenetic sounds of shouting and engine roars melded into a cacophony that struck a chord of primal fear deep within me. Arthur held the boy tightly under his arm as we stumbled out into the tumult, instinctually grouping closer together. Survivors swept past us, faces flushed with panic, eyes darting as if seeking refuge from the demons lurking just out of sight. Men and women, young and old, each one was a thread in the unraveling fabric of their lives, desperate to hold on to something amidst the chaos. "There's a shelter!" An older woman shouted, her voice hoarse yet cutting through the din like a beacon. She pointed down the street, where a decrepit building still stood defiantly against the onslaught, a relic of resilience amid crumbling struggle. Without a second thought, we aligned ourselves behind her, threading through the throng of fleeing bodies. Each pained cry reminded us that we were living a nightmare, challenged on all fronts. Most were not aware of the deeper battles waged during moments like these, the ones fought silently within the hearts of the kind and broken alike. In a momentary lull in the chaos, a fleeting kindness swept from the crowd. A young man turned back amidst the storm, offering his water bottle to a frantic mother whose toddler clutched at her skirts, too terrified to move. I momentarily paused, witnessing the way that small act rippled through the gathering despair, a reminder of the humanity still flickering among the wreckage. But then, the echoing crack of gunfire shattered that tenderness, puncturing the atmosphere and sending everyone scrambling anew. My chest tightened, every instinct screamed for us to flee, yet somewhere within the tumult, that flicker of compassion, the very flame we fought so hard to keep alive, stirred again with greater intensity. "Keep moving!" Arthur shouted, urgency lacing his tone, and I clutched the boy's hand tighter as we pressed onward, our hearts thrumming in unison amidst the disarray. Yet, with every step, a sense of futility gnawed at me. Where were we ultimately headed? What awaited us on the other side of those doors? As we reached the entrance of the shelter, a wave of relief washed over us, but it quickly dissipated as we crossed the threshold into the dimly lit interior. The once vibrant communal space now held only echoes of laughter and warmth. Instead, it felt like a graveyard of people, huddled forms tucked in corners, whispers, murmurings of loss and worry clouding the air. "Are you okay?" A nurse, weary but infinitely warm, rushed toward us, her eyes scanning for injuries. Her presence was a balm, soothing the raw edges of my anxiety, but the fleeting hope it ignited began to flicker once more when I saw the vacant expressions surrounding us. I hesitated, clutching the boy's hand tighter still. "We just escaped. Is this safe?" Her smile was hesitant, but it held a truth I desperately wanted to believe. "For now, yes. But we have to act quickly. You'll need to stay alert." Just then, Arthur knelt beside the boy, brushing a hand through his hair, whispering soft reassurances that dwindled beneath the weight of the uncertainty we faced. The connection between them was profound, an unbreakable bond forged in their mutual need for safety, something I found myself longing for too. As we settled closer to the back wall, I caught snippets of hushed conversations, stories of family members lost, homes destroyed, and futures cast into ambiguity. It was a heart-wrenching tableau, each unfolding tale a reminder of the chaos outside. A chaos Mark had unleashed, a storm of destruction that threatened to swallow every last ember of hope. Yet, amidst the oppression of despair, I found myself drawn to a group of children sitting huddled near a window, sharing whispered words and tender giggles despite the world's wrath just beyond the glass. The innocence they shared rang like a distant bell, echoing through my heart. It was a moment I both craved and feared, a reminder that warmth could still exist, even in the bleakest of situations. But just as that warmth ignited a flicker of hope within me, the door swung open with force, and a glimmer of recognition flashed across Arthur's face as he rose to his feet, eyes wide. "Wait!" he shouted, but it was too late. The figure that emerged from the chaotic throng was a specter from our past. The familiar silhouette turned, highlighted against the fading daylight, a reminder of battles and choices we had made together. "David?" I gasped, my heart plunging into an abyss of confusion. "What are you doing here?" In that moment, the shelter seemed to tremble with the weight of new possibilities and unresolved tensions. His eyes were shadowed, deep with secrets, but they brimmed with something else too, an urgency matched by desperation. The truth dawned on me, with a flurry of apprehension crashing over my heart. I had never expected this chance encounter to change our lives forever. Was David bringing answers, or yet another storm? What future lay ahead with him back in the fold?
As he stepped closer, uncertainty hung palpably in the air, a reminder that even in moments of kindness, the world could turn at a whim. How naive was I to believe we had found sanctuary in the rubble? In that moment of realization, my heart raced with a familiar rhythm of dread and hope, entwined an emotional cliffhanger that left us poised on the brink of some new revelation, just as the past beckoned us back toward the tumult. The haze of chaos filled the room, settling like a fog over our fragile sanctuary. My heart pounded in my chest, thrumming with disbelief as I processed David's presence. "What are you doing here?" I repeated, the words tumbling out like a lifeline tossed into a turbulent sea. He met my gaze, a complex mixture of desperation and determination etched across his face. "I came to help," he replied, but his voice carried the weight of unspoken truths, shadows lurking behind his eyes. "I know what Mark is planning. He's rallying forces, people hungry for chaos, for control." My stomach twisted at his words as dread washed over me. "Is that why you've returned?" Arthur interjected, his posture tense, protective as he stepped in front of the boy instinctively. "After everything?" Each breath felt like it carried the fading echo of our fractured pasts. David shifted uneasily, the burden of his past choices heavy on him. "I had to. I couldn't let this escalate any further without doing something. I know I've hurt people before, people I loved. But I can't stand by while innocent lives are lost." The words hung thick in the air, charged with a raw energy that crackled against the backdrop of our chaotic reality. "But why should we trust you?" I asked sharply, my heart racing. The little boy beside me clutched Arthur's side, feeling the tension that simmered in the air around us, "Because I've seen the darkness Mark can unleash. I was part of that world, and I know how to fight back," he said, his voice firmer now. "We need to gather people, show them that we can create hope, not just survive. Together, we stand a chance." His resolve sparked something deep within me, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the despair. But uncertainty still lingered, twisting in knots within my stomach. "We don't even know what he's planning," I replied cautiously, glancing at Arthur, who still wouldn't drop his protective stance. "What if you're just leading us into another trap?" David's eyes softened, capturing a depth of understanding. "I wouldn't do that, not again. I know everyone sees me as a traitor, but I've changed. The situation outside, Mark is using it as a stage, pulling strings to incite more chaos. If we unite here, we can confront him on our terms." The boy beside me looked up, his small voice barely audible above the tension. "Can we really change things?" That innocent question echoed through the room, a poignant reminder of everything we were fighting for. "Yes," Arthur replied firmly, kneeling to make eye contact with the child, circumventing my doubts. "We can change things. It won't be easy, but together, we create strength in our voice, an unbreakable band against injustice." David stepped forward earnestly, desperation lacing his words. "We have to act now. Gather everyone we can into one place. If we make a stand together, Mark won't know what hit him. It's time to show him that compassion can fight back against fear." In that moment, the flicker of hope ignited into a flame as something settled within me, an acceptance of our fragile but powerful bond formed through shared conflict. "All right," I murmured, and the trembling weight on my heart lightened slightly. "Let's do it." The resolve radiated through the room like a much-needed warmth. "Gather everyone," I called out, my voice rising above the hushed murmurings. "We need to unite and make our stand, no more waiting. Every person here matters. We deserve to create our narrative." As we moved, pulling together the scattered spirits in the shelter, a palpable energy flowed through us, lives intertwined, broken by circumstances yet resolute to rise again. The clamor of voices rose, one by one joining together, a symphony of collective determination amidst the looming chaos outside. Yet, in my heart, a shadow lingered, a fear of Mark, his dark designs lurking just beyond our grasp. As the small gathering transformed into something solid, a sense of solidarity knitted across our disparate lives, I caught someone slipping through the side door. A figure emerged from shadows, eyes scanning the room. It was the woman who had witnessed the boy's earlier fright. The one whose voice had inspired camaraderie moments ago. Her brow was set in a decisive line, determination etched along her face. "Is this where the real fight for compassion takes place?" she asked, her voice imbued with conviction. Yes, I affirmed, stepping toward her, my heart echoing with newfound resolve. We are uniting against Mark and everything he represents. Together, we can change the narrative.
She smiled, a visage of fierce courage amidst our gathering storm.
Then count me in.
Encouraged, I moved to others, gathering stories, fueling the connection with our collective fears and aspirations, a tapestry intricately woven from sorrow and hope. One by one, we shared our tales, transforming grief into fuel to carry us forward, testifying to our past struggles, and igniting a fire of change. But just as our voices unified in strength, a chilling realization hit. Meth world outside was still seething with fear, and Mark was still lurking in the shadows, waiting for any sign of weakness to strike.
Stay alert! I called out as the presence of the chaos outside loomed ever closer.
But the embers of our determination surged anew, the shout of collective humanity pushing against the darkness that threatened to extinguish our flame. And just then, through the cacophony outside, a surge of voices echoed amid the confusion. My heart raced, the sound familiar yet dissonant, the rallying cry I had hoped for, now tearing through the building walls. Suddenly, there he was again, Mark, a brooding figure emerging from the shadows, now more relentless than ever, flanked by gathered supporters ready to enforce his agenda. "Let's end this charade," he called out, his sinister smile cutting through the dim light. We all know compassion is a fool's game, but we stood there, shoulder to shoulder, arms linked, the spirit of resilience coursing through us like an unyielding tide.
"No!" I shouted back, my voice resonating with every ounce of belief I could summon. "We are more than just individuals. Together, we rise against injustice." The roars of our small assembly rose to meet Mark's harsh laughter, a tremor in the very fabric of our conflict.
"Let's show him the power of compassion," I said, and a chorus of voices erupted around me, weaving a spell of strength. The moment hung suspended in air, garnished with tension and uncertainty, before exploding into motion.
Determined, we surged toward the entrance.
Confrontation loomed ahead, yet as we charged forth, something deep settled within me, a quiet acceptance of the fortitude we had built, the bonds we had formed, and the undeniable truth that lay at the heart of it all. Mark's laughter echoed in my ears, but now it felt distant, like the cries of someone desperate for control in the face of genuine humanity. And while the future remained uncertain, one truth burned clear: together, we could inspire the world beyond our fears, to forge a path where compassion could flourish and reshape the story we all deserved.
As the sunlight streamed eerily through the clouds, illuminating the struggle ahead, I turned to our small band of warriors, arms linked, hearts ablaze, a reminder that no matter how desperate the battle, hope would always dance alongside courage. Let us be the change.
The shadows of darkness loomed tall, but I held tight to the gentle flame of unity. Together, we created a spark, a beacon in the darkness, a light that would shatter through the storm. With hearts intertwined, we charged forward into the arms of the uncertain, ready to carve our own narrative of compassion, ready to embrace our potential to change the world. And in that moment, I finally understood I had the power to alter the reality of our unfolding story, and as the dawn broke over the horizon, I could feel the warmth wrapping around us, reminding me that the fight for love, justice, and humanity was far from over. Sometimes, we simply had to lean on each other to lift our spirits, and face the storms together. And for the first time, I truly believed we could pave a new road toward a world where compassion reigns supreme.
As I
marched forward, surrounded by the warmth of our shared purpose, a final thought blossomed within me, a heartfelt promise that in this journey of love and resilience, we were ready to face anything, together.
Because in that fragile moment, I knew more than anything else, together, we could forge a new path. And together, we would rise.